Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is James. When a woman says she's not happy, you have no idea what to expect. That sentence can mean 100 different things. But in my case, when my wife said it, what she really meant shattered my life into 1,000 pieces. What she wanted, what she had already decided behind my back, what she had planned long before she even opened her mouth, made me question everything I believed about love, commitment, and marriage. So, here is how everything happened. I met my wife, Brenda, back in college. From the first time we spoke, we clicked. Our conversations were long, often stretching into the early hours. We'd talk about anything and everything. I ended up falling for her. Before graduation, we made it official. She became my girlfriend. That was one of the happiest moments of my life. After college, real life hit. I was lucky enough to land a job in corporate banking. Just an entry-level position, but it was a start. I was eager, driven, and more than anything, I wanted to build a life we could both be proud of. Brenda stood by me through that transition, and once I had some footing, we tied the knot. We were young, full of hope, and determined to make it work. We started our married life in a small apartment. It was a one-bedroom unit, with squeaky floors and second-hand furniture that friends and family helped us gather. But we were happy as we made the best of what we had, laughing at our makeshift home and dreaming about what we'd someday build. I worked like a man with something to prove. I put in long hours, stayed late, and volunteered for the tough assignments. Slowly but surely, I started getting noticed. Promotions came, and with them, better pay. Every raise felt like another step forward. Eventually, we were able to make a down payment on a beautiful home in the suburbs. I still remember the day we got the keys. Brenda cried happy tears in the driveway, and I felt like I'd done something right. At one point, we sat down and talked about her work. I asked her what she wanted, if she wanted to take on a job or stay home. She chose to stay home. She said she wanted to explore her hobbies, maybe take up photography, do some painting, and travel here and there. And I was fine with that. My salary was more than enough for both of us. Supporting her dreams was never a burden to me. It was something I did gladly. I loved her. I wanted her to be happy. Even on the worst days, I still made time for her. I'd come home dead tired, but sit with her just to ask about her day. We didn't take a lot of vacations, mostly because of my workload, but I always tried to make her feel comfortable, cared for, and seen. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but we always tried to talk through things. If something fell off, we'd discuss it. We didn't sweep things under the rug. That was our rule. We believed that small problems only grow when you pretend they aren't there. As the years passed, I began noticing subtle changes in Brenda. She started to pull back, bit by bit. There were no big fights or accusations, but I could feel the difference. The sparkle in our conversations dulled. She smiled, sure, but it was thinner, like something she put on, not something that rose up naturally from the inside. We used to talk about everything, but over time, our conversations became shorter, colder. There was the pain we shared, which was trying to have children. Every time Brenda got pregnant, we'd get our hopes up, only to have them crushed. Miscarriage after miscarriage. And each one left us more hollow. She cried less each time. After a while, we just stopped trying. I let the silence grow, hoping it would eventually recede when we got our miracle. I held on to the dream that one day we'll have the time and make up for all of this. I imagined retiring early, traveling together, and making new memories. That was my picture of the future. That's what kept me going. One evening, I had come home early from work. It wasn't planned or anything. The house was quiet. I walked into the living room and saw Brenda asleep on the couch. On the coffee table beside her was this journal she kept. I knew about it. She'd had it for years, carried it around during trips, sometimes scribbled in it late at night, but I never touched it. That day, though, I don't know what came over me. I didn't wake her. I just sat down slowly, picked up the journal, and started to read from the last few pages she'd written. What I found inside wasn't meant for me. I don't even know how to describe it properly. She was asking herself questions no husband ever wants to read from his wife. Who am I without James? That's exactly what she wrote. And right under it, she asked herself, is this really the life I want to live? I read the sentences over and over again. I didn't confront her about it. I just closed the journal, placed it back exactly where it was. I watched her sleep, wondering how long she had felt this way without saying a word. I kept asking myself, was I blind? Did I miss the signs? Or was she just really good at hiding it? From that moment on, I couldn't look at things the same. I started questioning everything. Nothing felt certain anymore. And the worst part? I didn't even know how to bring it up. How do you tell someone you read their journal? How do you admit you're terrified of the answer to a question they haven't even asked you out loud yet? I felt lost. After reading that journal, I made a decision to stop throwing all my energy into work and began showing my love through simple gestures meant to remind her I was still there and that I cared. At first, these things seemed to work. Brenda smiled more, and sometimes she even looked at me the way she used to. Those moments felt like a small win. But after a while, I noticed a change. It was almost like my efforts bothered her. Sometimes she would barely respond, and it felt like she was waiting for me to stop. I started feeling like I was annoying her just by trying to be close. That made me feel helpless. I was exhausted emotionally, stuck in a place where I wanted to fight for us, but I didn't know how. One rainy Thursday evening, I had just walked through the door, soaked from the cold downpour outside. My clothes clung to me, and I was hoping for a warm moment. But when I stepped inside, Brenda was sitting on the couch. In her hands was a folder, and as soon as I closed the door behind me, she looked up and said, "James, I am not happy." I slowly sat down beside her, confused, worried, and honestly a little scared. I asked her gently, "What do you mean? What's wrong?" Brenda took a deep breath and began to explain. She said she felt like she had never truly lived her own life. She said she went straight from being someone's daughter to being someone's wife without really stopping to figure out who she was outside of those roles. She talked about wanting to experience life, to find herself. She was careful to say, "This isn't because of anything you did. You were good to me," as if trying to soften the blow. Before I could even say anything, she reached into that folder and pulled out divorce papers, already filled out, signed, and dated. I remember staring at those papers, unable to believe what I was seeing. I begged her, pleaded with her to reconsider. I asked her to go to marriage counseling with me, to talk to someone who might help us find our way back. I suggested we take a trip, just the two of us, to reconnect and figure things out away from the daily grind. I was desperate to fix this, to hold on to the life we had built together. But Brenda stayed calm, as if she had already made up her mind long before that night. She refused every one of my suggestions. I was broken, realizing that no matter what I said or did, this was the moment everything changed. I was falling without any hope of catching myself. Over the next 8 months, we weren't just ending a marriage, we were tearing apart a life we had built from scratch. And the woman I once saw as my best friend was now standing across from me like a stranger, determined to win a fight I never asked for. We fought over everything: the house, the car, the money in our joint accounts. But what made my heart drop was when she went after my retirement fund. It felt unfair and cruel. What hurt even more was her reasoning. She told the court and anyone who would listen that our marriage broke down because I worked too much, that I was never present. Yes, I work long hours, but I did that for us. I did that to keep our lifestyle running, to make sure she never lacked a thing. She was the one who chose not to work. I never once threw it in her face. But now my hard work was being used as ammunition against me. People around us didn't really know what to say. Some friends tried to be there for me, and I appreciated them. But most just didn't get it. Even some mutual friends began to pull away, some clearly taking Brenda's side, while others just faded into the background, choosing silence over awkwardness. It's funny how divorce doesn't just end a marriage, it can end friendships too. Eventually, it all came to an end. The lawyers did what they had to do. The paperwork was signed. The assets were split. And just like that, the marriage was over. But the damage stayed. Months had gone by since the divorce was finalized. I was just starting to pick up the pieces of whatever was left of me. I had started working longer hours again, just to keep myself from thinking too much. Then one afternoon, while grabbing coffee with an old friend, he pulled out his phone and said, "Man, I wasn't sure if I should show you this, but I think you need to see it." I had no idea what he was talking about. But when he handed me his phone, it made sense to me. It was a series of photos of my ex-wife with her new lover. These weren't new. They were dated months before she ever sat me down on that couch and said she was unhappy. She had already moved on before she ever had the courage to tell me she wanted out. This wasn't about finding herself. That was just the script she rehearsed to keep her conscience clean. I wasn't just dealing with a breakup. I was now dealing with a betrayal that had been carefully hidden right under my nose. I won't lie, the pain in that moment didn't feel like sadness. It felt like humiliation. That night, I couldn't even sleep. I didn't just lose my assets. I lost a significant part of me after this realization. I moved into a smaller apartment because I couldn't stay in that house any longer. It had become a museum of memories I didn't ask to revisit. Slowly, things started coming together. My savings account grew again. I was able to replace some of the things I had let go of during a split. The feeling of being financially stable again didn't solve everything, but it gave me a sense of control in a world that had felt completely out of my hands for a long time. Over the years, a few women showed interest. Some were gentle and kind. Some were bold. But I turned away each time. Not because they weren't good people, but because I wasn't in the right place. I was still broken in ways I couldn't explain, and I wasn't about to drag someone into that mess. I knew I wasn't ready, so I didn't want a rebound or a distraction. I needed to be whole before I tried to share myself with anyone again. And to be real with you, I was scared of trusting someone again or giving the best of me to someone who could throw it away like it meant nothing. Somehow, I decided to try therapy. I know some people still hesitate when they hear that word. But for me, it was the anchor that kept me from drifting too far off. It gave me language for things I didn't know how to express. It helped me unpack years of confusion, betrayal, and silent grief. One session at a time, I started to pull away from the habit of checking on Brenda's life, stalking her online, trying to read between the lines of her posts, wondering if she was happy or regretting anything. Therapy helped me accept that her journey was no longer mine to follow. That chapter was closed. It reminded me that healing doesn't come from knowing whether someone regrets losing you. It comes from choosing to stop needing their regret in the first place. That season of rebuilding was the hardest period of my life. But in its own brutal way, it taught me more about myself than any happy years ever could. One quiet Sunday morning, when things were finally settling down for me, my phone rang. It was one of those moments when you don't expect much. The number was unknown, which usually means I'd let it go to voicemail, but something made me pick up. The voice on the other end said, "Hi, James." And just like that, I knew it was Brenda. She told me she wanted to apologize. Said she had finally come to understand just how much damage she caused, how deep the hurt really was. She admitted the relationship she had left me for didn't turn out like she hoped. It ended with lies, just like ours did. But she was clear. She wasn't calling to ask for me back as her husband. She just wanted to see if we could be friends. I listened to her quietly, taking it all in. When she finished, I simply said, "I have no need for your friendship." Then I hung up the phone. But it didn't stop there. Brenda kept calling after that day. At first, I ignored some calls, but then she started calling a lot, over and over. Eventually, I had to block her number. I had moved on, or at least I was trying to. Years later, at a mutual friend's wedding, I saw her again. I was with someone new then. Brenda was there too, but I barely even looked her way. It was like she was part of a chapter I'd already closed. Now, when I think back over everything, I realize I lost a lot. Not just the marriage or the house, but a piece of myself. Still, the one thing I can hold on to is this. I found myself again. I learned what it means to stand on my own. And to anyone watching who might be going through something similar, I want you to know that you're not alone. Life can break you, but it can also make you stronger. If this story speaks to you or someone you know, please like it and share it. Sometimes, hearing a story like this is the first step toward healing. Because, as I always say, some people leave to find themselves. Others find themselves when they're left.